Many facilitators will use what I like to call an action plan. You might call it an ideas list or something else. But in essence, it's a piece of paper where you encourage people throughout a classroom session to jot down the ideas they have for taking action back on the job as a result of the classroom session they've participated in. Now, I personally feel this is one of the most important pieces of paper in a classroom session. And yet I often see facilitators not really giving it much value or weight in the eyes of their participants, and therefore the participants don't really see it as having much value. So I really encourage you to use those action plans and throughout the session in a way that's going to make them a valuable tool for participants. And the first way you want to do that is by thinking about how you're introducing it. Let me share with you a little way that I introduce them, just to give you a sense of how much value people can gain out of these if they're presented properly. Would everyone take their yellow sheet or yellow action plan out of their participant guide, please? And I want to tell you that I believe this is the most important piece of paper you are going to touch all day. This is what's going to help to make sure you get really good value out of this session. By jotting down the actions throughout the session that you want to take, you're going to be sure that you have things that you can do as a result of this session that are going to make a difference in the way you work or the way you lead. And that's really important because, you know, it doesn't really matter what you do in this classroom session. What matters is what you do when you leave it. And this is the tool that's going to help make sure that you've got lots to do when you leave this session. Now, you could obviously create your own introduction and find your own words, but that kind of introduction puts real value on that tool. And if you put value on that tool and put emphasis on it, participants will see it as such and will more likely use it effectively throughout the session. Now, throughout the session, you want to be sure that you're giving them quiet time to reflect. We know the importance of reflecting on people's learning, and yet we rarely give them the time. Oh, we got lots to cover, let's keep going. So regularly, especially as you're changing topics or moving to a new activity, give them time to stop for at least a full minute or two and quietly update their action plans. And that will ensure that by the end of the session, they've got some good items on there. We also can do that as facilitators spontaneously. I mean, you all know those moments in a classroom session when someone says something brilliantly or a new idea comes up you hadn't heard before, and you can say, oh, what a neat way to think about that, or what a great idea. If that applies to you, take out your action plan right now and jot it on there. So spontaneously you want to refer to the action plan. Certainly in planned approaches throughout the session you'll want to do the same. And then at the end of the session you'll want to make sure that you're referring to it again, giving them time to update it. Maybe asking a few people to volunteer to share something they have on their action plan. That can be good to help reinforce the kinds of things they've learned or they want to take away. You can even do some fun things throughout the session by on occasion calling out who's got 10 items, who's got 12, who's got 15, hand out some candy or whatever. Reinforces the importance of it and that you really feel that it's a worthwhile thing to do. So those are just some tips on making those action plans really work for you and work for your participants in your classroom sessions.